advancing peace and sustainable economic development through royal vision, we could not find a more fitting guardian for this theme than a worthy son of Asantehene and a global statesman. Described by the Financial Times of London as the great old African gold king, the African gold finger. He has done for mining what the great Ali has done for boxing, Pele has done for football, and Shatta Wale and Davido are doing for Afrobeats. Tonight I give to you a Knight Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, a Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, the Executive Chairman of the Jonah Capital, and one of the most consequential Africans of his generation. He's a man who is forged in the darkness of Ghana's minds and has risen by sheer force of intellect, integrity, and will to illuminate boardrooms in Johannesburg, in London, in New York, and beyond. It took me a whole night to prepare this, Sir Sam. Tonight, we recall with great delight his beginnings here at Ashanti Goldfields as a young man of ambition in 1979, and by 36 had become its first Ghanaian chief executive, going on to multiply its gold production sixfold and shepherding its transformation into a true African multinational and leading it onto the floor of the New York Stock Exchange as the first operating African company ever to earn that distinction. He did not merely build a company. He proved at a moment when the world needed proof that African leadership, African vision, and African excellence were world-class in every sense of the word. But what elevates him tonight beyond the extraordinary catalogue of his commercial achievements is something rather rare, his character. A man who has chaired companies across 4 continents, advised presidents from Kufuor to Obasanjo to Mbeki, served on the General Advisory Council of the United Nations Secretary General's Global Compact, and has earned the admiration of Ghana's mine workers with a Platinum Award and more, and yet whose most consistent message, drawn from decades of watching power misused and potentially squandered, has been a call, not more for himself and for his own influence, but for honest and limited government, for constitutional reform, and for strengthening peace and democracy. A man who has spent a lifetime at precisely that intersection where investment meets integrity and where economic ambition must answer to social conscience, where the work of building wealth and the work of building peace are not rivals but partners. And it's no small thing he carries on his heart. As a board member of the Otumfuo Osei Foundation, a personal connection of brotherhood to the extraordinary monarch we gather here tonight to honor, a king who is 27 years on the golden stool and who has shown the world that royal authority and democratic peace are not opposites but allies. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I give to you our chairperson for this auspicious dinner, Sir Sam Jonah.
Thank you, Jerry. It's the longest introduction I've had the pleasure of listening to. Your Majesty, Otumfuo II, the Asantehene, the occupant of the golden stool, the pillar of peace. Lady Julia Osei, Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Your Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Your Excellency Shedi Ayoko Botwe, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the first for us in Ghana. The first Deputy Speaker, our Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafubone, the Chief of Defense Staff, General William Ajapong, His Royal Majesty, Ogiame Atuwatse III, Olu of Wari Kingdom, and Her Royal Highness, Olori Atuwatse III, we are indeed deeply honored to have you here with your presence. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have chaired many events in my life, but I confess there's something about being invited to chair a dinner in someone's own palace that has a way of concentrating the mind wonderfully. You're supposed to laugh. We are gathered this evening in this magnificent hall, within the very walls of Menchia, the seat of Africa's most storied royal traditions, to mark 27 years since Otumfuo ascended the golden stool and proceeded to do something quite remarkable with the authority it conferred. He chose peace. Not because it was the easier path. Indeed, anyone who thinks that peace is easy has never tried to make it. He chose peace because he understood, with the clarity that distinguishes the truly great from the merely powerful, that without peace, everything else is noise. Now, before I go on, I'm obliged to make a declaration. Otumfuo is my brother. I suspect, therefore, I have to admit that being in Miss Company, it will raise questions of objectivity. I want to address that concern directly and with the seriousness that it deserves. I have none. But here is a thing about truth. It is rather inconveniently indifferent to personal considerations. Whether you're Otumfuo's brother or a friend, the facts about this man remain the same. And tonight, the facts speak loudly, so loudly, in fact, that I need only arrange them in good order and step aside. So, ladies and gentlemen, objectivity or no, let the record speak. When Otumfuo VI ascended the golden stool in April 1999, he inherited not only the weight of Asante tradition, 7 centuries of history, of gold, and of kings, but also a portfolio of disputes, wounds, and unresolved tensions that would have defeated lesser men. I just give you an example. The Efidiasi stool dispute had festered for 23 years. 23 years. Communities divided, families estranged, cause burdened, and there it sat, a wound that had become so familiar, people had stopped believing it could be healed. His Majesty took it up, 7 sittings, and it was done. The then Chief Justice of Ghana, Justice Kwesi Anum-Yeboah, observed when receiving a commemorative coin that Otumfuo's interventions in chieftaincy disputes has significantly reduced the burden on the courts. Ladies and gentlemen, think about it. A king who lightens the load of the judiciary in a country not short of disputes, that is no small contribution. The Dagbon conflict, a crisis so deep, so violent, so entrenched in history that wise men had quietly given up on it. Indeed, President Kufuor, a man not given to extravagant praise, says something about that resolution that I still think deserves to be repeated tonight. And I quote, if Otumfuo's achievement in the resolution of the Dagbon crisis had been in Europe or America, I'm sure the Nobel Peace Prize would have been bestowed on him. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave that thought exactly where President Kufuor placed it. But ladies and gentlemen, his mandate, as it turned out, was not confined to chieftaincy. In 2012, as Ghana prepared for a general election, an election that carried its anxieties as all of them do, His Majesty convened all presidential candidates to Kumasi. He brought them to this city under his roof, under his moral authority, and secured from them a commitment to peaceful elections. They signed what has famously become known as the Kumasi Declaration. This is not a small feat. Give him a big hand of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, in a continent that has known too many elections descending to violence, a traditional ruler convening political rivals and extracting a peace covenant by moral persuasion alone, without a single law compelling them, is a feat worth recognizing. Let's give him another round of applause. In 2016, he worked quietly behind the scenes once more, helping ease the tension that surrounded that year's transition of power. Quietly, the emphasis is, without fanfare, because the most important things in life are often done that way. And more recently, let's look at the Boko mediation, a conflict so tangled with roots, its roots are so tangled that few believed anyone could even begin to unravel them. His Majesty accepted the role of sole mediator, conducted sessions here at Menchia, and in December of last year, presented his report to the President at the Jubilee House. Ladies and gentlemen, the work continues, but it has begun, and in peacemaking, beginning is everything. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we witness something very rare, something very beautiful. His Majesty in this very hall will confer the prestigious Otumfuo commemorative gold medal on President John Mahama, President Nana Akufo-Addo, and John Akufo-Addo. 3 leaders, 3 eras, 1 golden thread, service to the nation. Give them a high five. President Mahama for continuing the Dagbon process, establishing the 1 billion CD Boko Revitalization Fund, civilizing the city, and showing deep respect for traditional authority. For President Akufo-Addo, under whose watch Dagbon achieved lasting peace, and who delivered the transformative free SHS policy that the World Bank called one of the most impactful in our history. And for President Kufuor, who initiated the Dagbon peace process, introduced the NIH, National Health Insurance Scheme, and steered Ghana through APIC, cancelling billions in debt and stabilizing the economy. By honoring them jointly, Otumfuo is sending a clear message, louder than any speech, that statesmanship is not about partisan victory. It is about continuing, enduring contributions to peace, prosperity, and national development. Different facets, same golden purpose, ladies and gentlemen. In 2019, Otumfuo addressed the United Nations High-Level Forum on the Culture of Peace. His topic was Partnership for a Culture of Peace, mobilizing traditional leadership and communities for peace and security. He went to New York and he told the world what he had been demonstrating here at least for 2 decades. The traditional leaders are not relics of the past, but potential architects of the peace that the modern world so desperately needs. The address received global commendation. That same year, he received the Pillar of Peace Award at the inaugural Africa Premier Leadership Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in troubled times. Ukraine bleeds, the Middle East bends, tensions fracture the architecture of international order that the previous generation built at great cost. Multilateralism is under strain. Alliances that seem permanent are proving now negotiable. And too many leaders find political profit in the performance of conflict. And yet, in this room, ladies and gentlemen, in this room, we have a man who has spent 27 years demonstrating quietly, persistently, and effectively that there is another way. That dialogue, patiently sustained, is stronger than any decree. That moral authority deployed in the service of peace can accomplish what no army or court can compel. Ladies and gentlemen, The world does not need more weapons. The world needs more leaders like Otumfuo. I say that as a man who has spent his life in mining and investment, I know the value of what lies beneath the ground. But I have learned that the most precious ore of all is the kind of leadership that builds rather than divides, rather than destroys, reconciles, and sees in every conflict a peacemaking waiting to be negotiated. His Majesty has been mining that ore for 27 years. And then, of course, there is education. His Majesty understands, indeed, as all true great leaders do, that the most durable peace is not achieved at the signing ceremony. It is built slowly in classrooms, in the minds of children who learn to think critically, to engage with difference, to see humanity in the other. His Majesty's commitment to education as a tool for national development is not separate from his peacemaking. Indeed, it is his peacemaking extended across generations. An educated society creates its own conditions for peace. It builds institutions. It develops the capacity for reasoned disagreement. It produces citizens who settle disputes with words, not weapons. And in supporting education, Otumfuo is not simply fulfilling a royal duty. He is planting peace in soil that will bear fruit after all of us in this room have taken a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, Shakespeare's Mark Antony stood over Caesar's body and told Rome, I quote, "The good is often interred with their bones." He had to wait until his friend was dead before he could say the things that needed saying. And even then, he had to dress it in irony to get the crowd to listen. We are lucky here tonight. His Majesty is sitting here right with us, in very good health, in good humor, and in the full knowledge that what is being said is not in eulogy, but in celebration. We don't need irony. We don't need a funeral, and we certainly do not need to wait. Tonight, the ears are open, and so we speak. Tonight, we mark this occasion with gold, as Asante has always done over the years. The commemorative gold coin that honors His Majesty is not merely a beautiful object, though it certainly is. It is a statement that this community, this nation, this world chooses to recognize greatness in the living, to say thank you while the ears that need to hear are still open. The coin and all the artworks unveiled tonight will go into homes, offices, and treasuries around the world, carrying with them a very simple message that peace is possible, that one person in one chair with sufficient wisdom and moral courage can tip the scales. Your Majesty, in conclusion, 27 years ago, you ascended the golden stool and received the weight of an ancient kingdom. Since then, you have carried that weight brilliantly, and you have added to it the voluntary burden of other people's conflicts, other people's wounds, other people's unanswered questions. You did it because you understood that a king is only as great as the peace his kingdom enjoys, and that the boundaries of your kingdom in your hands have always extended as far as your conscience could reach. You have gathered here while you are still reigning, to say in full voice what needs no funeral to be true. Ghana is better for it. Africa is better for it. And on this particular evening, the world is paying attention. Ayiko, thank you.